Next, we need you guys and Jim Romano. Come on up. We're gonna have a little buyer panel. So,
hey, Remax Pros friends, welcome to the
yeah, that was me. That was me. All right, so just probably to set the stage here a little bit, there's a million ways to do a buyer presentation. There's a million different ways to negotiate, to talk to your people.
Is your mic on?
Yeah, it should be. I'm not close enough. There's a million ways to do this. We picked Jim and Brandon and Alana because they both had some great success of late with the changes. And so we're going to give you some ideas. I'm not saying that I think you should copy, because that probably wouldn't be very genuine. But hopefully you'll get some tidbits and some pieces and some parts on how you can talk to your people, things that you can say to your people. And so I got a couple of questions that I'm going to ask them and have them answer individually. But before we're done, we'll let you guys ask some questions too, and kind of see how we go with that. All right? So it's not going to be maybe just a normal presentation panel. We're going to just kind of ask some questions and have you guys fire back. So probably the first question and maybe the most important piece about all of this is, with the new rules and our new supposed to get buyer agency agreements signed prior to providing specific assistance to the buyers, how are you guys approaching that? What do you do with that? Do you talk to them? Do you present the contract to them at your first meeting? Do you present the contract to them when you're showing a house? Do you still do it the old way and get it the day after closing? How do you do it? You want to start, Jim? Because Lana wants you to start, so you go.
A little different. I'm a little more diligent about sitting down and having a buyer presentation when I can. We live in a real world where a client calls you up and says, I want to go see this house. I'm going to say, wow, we got to go meet in my office for 45 minutes and go through a buyer agency agreement. Sure, I'll see you there. Good client, I'm going to probably go out, show them a house, maybe show them a second house, and then say, hey, by the way, you probably heard about this crazy thing they call buyer agency. We probably need to have a little conversation about what that's all about. I'd love to meet with you and talk about it. If not, let me go send you the buyer agency agreement, because technically I can't even show you this house without it. I have had situations where I've had buyer just sign calls people I don't know, which I would have gone out and showed them the house and say, hey, before I can show you this house, I got to send you this little document. It's kind of no rules we have, but it just says, you're not being represented by anybody. You're a customer, and you're just going to sign this document, or send it to you, acknowledge that you have it, and I'm going to go show you my listing at 1 o'clock. You don't have to commit to anything. I'm just going to say that I'm not representing you in this transaction. And then that usually comes up, and they say, hey, could you represent us? I'm like, yeah, I could, and it would be this, and we'll sign a document, and we'll get to that if it's something we move forward with. That's why I'm doing it.
Good.
For me, pretty
You
much,
guys need to hold it closer too,
all right.
because there's not enough.
Business as usual. So we're trying to get the appointment ahead of time. Typically, we're demonstrating our value one way or another. Either it's by conversation, by selling them a story, something like that. We try to force the agreement up front, and the way we explain it is, if someone brings up in our settlement, we explain to them that as a precaution, basically the agreement is for their protection, and so we're basically just protecting them up front.
Great. So if I heard you correctly, in kind of translating, Jim, what you said, is that if you had a past client that called you up and said, hey, I want to go see this house, you'd likely go show them the house, right? Brandon, you said basically the same thing, business as usual, same way that you've always done it. You go show them the house. But during that showing or shortly thereafter, in one way or another, you're going to get to that subject so that you can get to the paperwork and make sure that you stay compliant so that we can ask for commission numbers, yes? And just as a revamp for that, just to make sure that everybody hears me say it for the 10,000th time, right? The Division of Real Estate issued a statement that said, in fact, you do not have to have anything in writing to go show somebody a house. They did that so that buyers know that you don't have to have anything in writing to go see a house. However, real estate agents, if we want to get paid, have to have something in writing. So that's the differentiation there, just to make sure. So I totally agree in the fact that if I have a past client that wants to go see a house and I need to bounce up and go show it to them, great, let's go show it. But at some point in time, hopefully prior to the fact that they decided they wanted to buy the house, I'm going to make sure I got a buyer agency agreement. Because if you don't have one, legally you cannot ask for a commission. That is the way the change affects us. You can't even ask. Okay? Everybody good with that? Beautiful. Go ahead.
Well, we keep saying that it's a new rule, and we keep presenting it to the buyers like it's a new rule. A lot of buyers don't know that it's new, really. So,
Yeah.
just like Brendan said, it's business as usual. And when somebody wants to see the house, I do ask them a lot of questions and leave them with a lot of questions more than answers. I ask them if it's the first time, if it's not a first time, if they do you know how much the closing cost is going to be, do you know, have you talked to the lender, so on and so forth. And when they are overwhelmed with the information of how much is the inspection going to cost, do you know anything about the appraisal, how are you going to approach that? For them, it's a lot of questions. Well, how about that? Let's meet. I'll explain to you how the process works, and I would love to show you a home. Typically, that settles them because they have more questions than answers. And we do meet. We do go through the buyer presentation, and typically it does end with the signing of the contract.
Good. I got one more question real quick. But before I ask this next question, I just want to make sure that we don't have any guest agents here that somebody brought you and you're not a member of this brokerage. If you are, just raise your hand real quick so I can plug your ears. Just want to make sure. All right, beautiful, because I don't want to make any FTC violations. So one of the things I wanted to know, and just because I know that both of you guys are doing it pretty well, when you do sit down and you write your buyer agency agreement, how are you talking to your buyers, prospective buyers, about how you're getting paid and how much you're getting paid? How much are you asking for?
3%?
3%?
We have
Hold that close so that everybody can
We
hear
have
you.
been for years, for minimum 8 years, we've been asking 3%. And we have been making, I don't want to say extra, because we're making money, but it is typically that 0.2 or 0.5% was extra, anywhere between, like, every year it was over 20,000. And so that's extra, which I don't consider as extra, but, you know, we did.
How do you present that? I mean, give us some language. If I'm your buyer, what are you going to say to me?
So that first, what I just mentioned with, do you know how much the closing cost is going to be? Do you know what the appraisal will be, or the amount of the inspection? How much is that going to be? They don't know the answers. So part of our presentation, we kind of tee it up to spreadsheet of the expenses that they will be facing through home buyer process. Okay, we explain the process, and on the sheet that we have, the first step between going on the contract and closing, the first step is the earnest money. So we do present them the earnest money is the part of the down payment. Here's how much it's going to be. The next step is going to be inspection. Here's how much inspection is going to cost approximately. It's a full health of the house. There's other inspections there. Next is going to be appraisal. Here's how much typical appraisal costs and who orders it. Then we're going to closing cost and closing fee. Please make sure to differentiate those two, because remember, and here's where the TAP's starting. Remember that cost is a lot and fee is the little. That's how you can differentiate closing cost and closing fee. So, how much the closing costs will be? Please, yeah, there we go. How much the closing costs are going to be? Please ask your lender. It should be within 1.2% all the way up to 6%. It really should not be 6%. It's probably CHFA. And when you go to, do you see how it costs a lot, fee a little? Fee is the title company fee, and again, that's when I'm teeing it up and explaining to them that now we have agent fee. That's a little, right? So, and with agent fee, we're saying basically we charge 3%, and the good part about it that we can negotiate majority of those fees be paid by the seller. And that's when they say, well, how much is it? Or typically they're getting excited that they don't have to pay that 3%. Because as I'm talking and they're seeing that 3%, like, oh my gosh, do we have to pay it? It's on top of that. I said, well, no. If you look at the list, all what you might be responsible for, this is how we presented before the changes, all what you might be responsible for is 0.2 to 0.5%. Basically, working with me for the next 6 months to a year will be the cheapest thing on this list. No one, well, once in 8 years, somebody said, really? I thought I shouldn't pay you. I said, well, it's entirely up to you to look at the list, everything that I presented, and I still worked with that lady, but only one person in 8 years said something about it. And typically, we do get that 3%.
Good. Brandon, you got anything to add to that?
I do.
Okay.
So the first thing is, I like what Jim put out there, and I'll see this is all part of it, where he talks about how it's...
Hold it up close, Brandon.
Sorry, where he talks about how it's parsed out now. So if you're looking at a $500,000 property, expect that potentially it's $515 with those costs involved. But the thing is what we've explained to them is a couple different things. One, all they've done, in fact, they've helped out the buyers in a lot of ways, and that's one of the ways they've saved some money, or that's one of the ways they're going to be saving some money, is because now Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, VA, all these guys are able to incorporate some of these fees that they weren't able to incorporate before. In addition, we explained to them that one of the cool things that we've been able to kind of demonstrate is more value, and that's by some of the things that we've been able to pull together as far as other things that most people don't understand, because you typically know open doors, look for homes, but the other things that people don't expect are you get to show that you're being a manager, a leader, a warrior, an investigator, an investment advisor, an economist, a negotiator, expert, emergency responder, confidant, therapist, professional, winner, and sometimes a rebel. And all those costs are now able to be included, which is something that's important. We explain to these people that this is for their benefit, but we also explain to them in a different way, where we explain to them that one of the things that the lawsuit did was it enabled people to see a cap on our compensation. So we all know that our compensation is through the process. Ultimately, the buyer pays that process. So one of the things we've explained to them is this actually caps it out. So we can't get 5% if we've only agreed to 3%. It stops it at 3%, so you're not paying 5%, and it's fully transparent. And a lot of people like that. The other thing is we're asking for permission, where do you mind if we go ahead and negotiate this into the process instead of you being responsible for it out of your pocket? One of the other things that we've done is we've realized through most buyers that they like even numbers. So fractionalizing some of these numbers is affecting your bottom line. And so we've made it easy for them, and we've told them 3% is what you can expect. We're not going to charge any extra fees. We're not going to charge any additional aspects to it. This is just what you can expect, other than whatever you would get through or you would pay through the transaction. The cool thing is now it's just able to be included where before some of it wasn't.
Great. Jim, how about you? What are you asking for, and how do you ask?
Amber, can we put up that slide? So what I do, and we just went through this, and I commend my team. We redid our entire buyer agency agreement and added a new value proposition to what this looks like. So we basically, we didn't start from the beginning. We took the buyer agency kind of presentation that was there, kind of cleaned it up. It seemed kind of sophomore to us, and very kind of old school, so we cleaned it up. But we added a few things into here. One is we added 55 more ways we help you. And so we go through and we say, here's the things that we are going to be doing through the process. And we have these 55 kind of items that we're going to go through. We've kind of skipped through that. And again, this is hot off the press. Literally, we got this done on Tuesday, I think. And I want to thank my team and Allie for putting this all together for me. But then if we go down to that next section, which is I think our pillars, our 8 pillars of value. So in here, we sit there and say, here's what we're going to do to add value. So in here we have the pre-approval. So we're going to sit there and say, when you go out and get your lender and they have their own lender or whatever, we're going to have you talk to multiple lenders. There's a lot of differences, and rates are moving all over the place right now. Now, a lender is not going to like the fact that I'm going to go shop them, but you know what? If we can get you $3,000 or a quarter point on your mortgage, how much is that worth? And then we're going to get these sheets that are going to come in saying, here's how much my loan is going to cost. It means nothing to them. They bought a house 8 years ago on average. We're going to sit there and consult with them and then help them negotiate with the lender to get the best deal. Can I save you $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on your mortgage over time? Probably pretty easily if we do that. Versus they're going to go out and talk to their one lender and say, here's my rate. We're going to make sure that that's competitive. Then we're going to go into the home search and we're going to sit there and say, yeah, you're going to go look on MLS and you're going to go onto Zillow and you're going to see other things. How about the fact that we sell $3 billion a year in a company and I have pocket listings that I'm going to be able to talk to agents within this company that you're not going to know about? How about if we know about some coming soon listings coming on? That adds some value that maybe people don't know about. Here's an idea. How about I go look up expired listings in the neighborhood that you're looking for, and we go talk to a seller that was trying to sell their house, but it's not selling their house today, but might be a fit for you, and we go after those listings. Would that add some value to what I do? Then we're going to sit there and say, we're going to give you some market research. We're going to give you some overall market research on the entire area so you understand, and then we're going to give you some detailed market research on the area you're looking at. So we're going to put an offer in. What are the average days in the market in Heritage Hills? What's the average list price to negotiated sale price? So you can sit there and say, I'm an informed buyer now because I'm getting market research and detail on what I'm going to have about this property. I should anticipate that I should get this house for 98.4% of the list price on average. And if I do it for 98%, how much better am I? Am I adding value on that? Because I'm going to show you what my negotiated price is to the market. So we're going to do that. Writing the offer, going through the details of that. The big thing we talk about is now we're going to help you. What happens on a typical offer is an agent says, boom, and I get a text saying, I just sent you an offer. And it means absolutely nothing. And that agent sells about 4 transactions a year. And now that person's going to go to the seller and negotiate on your behalf, has no clue what they're talking about, and they're going to present your offer to them. And they're going to say, yep, this is the price, and this is when they want to close. And they go, that's a little too low. Well, how about if I called that agent and said, hey, here's where we're coming in at, and they've been pre-approved, and they've already talked to my lender, and we are ready to go, and we can close in 2 weeks, and here's their credit scores, and they've got W-2 employees, or W-2s, and they've already run through underwriting, and they're all done, and here's why we're coming in a little bit less, because we're non-contingent, and I'm going to go sell that agent to tell them how to go sell their seller, how to present our offer, instead of saying, offer's in your mailbox, and then they go present it. And that's, how often do you get that? How often do you get to talk to a frickin' agent anymore? Like, I'm going to cut off text messaging when I'm negotiating a contract. We're trying to sell $1.8 million, and I get a text, offers in the thing. Like, really? We can't have a conversation? It's not worth 90 seconds to have a conversation and build some rapport and get this thing going. So that's going to be a differentiating factor. Then presenting the offer, and then going through the contract phase, going through the closing phase, and then post-closing. And then I'll go through our next little step here, which I think really is going to be the difference in how I'm going to get my buyers to be on board, why I want to get paid. So go to that next section here real quick, and then I'll hush. Go to the 5 bundles. We offer 4 bundles of 5 bundles. So then these are sit there and say, these are services that I'm going to provide to my buyer. And now I'm not going to provide this to every buyer. Someone's going to do a condo for $375 in Aurora. Probably not going to offer the bundled services. I'm going to say, hey, Michelle, here's a new buyer for you in Aurora. And she's going to go work with it. But a high-end person that is out there looking at different agents, I'm going to sit there and say, here's some things that I'm going to offer for you. I'm going to hire a moving concierge for you. I pay, it's a fee, it's about $350. They come in, they meet with them, say, it's time to make a move. They meet with you, say, you got to move all this stuff. And then they're going to go get 3 competitive bids for you on movers. And then they're going to come back and say, which mover do you want to use? And the day of the move, they're going to be there to help you with that move. The fee I'm going to pay is about $350. They pay for the move, I pay for the consult. I'm going to go either negotiate in that the house is going to be cleaned. Cleanio, I'm going to be talking to you. Either the house is going to be cleaned by the seller and the carpet's going to be cleaned by the seller, or if not, I will pay for the house to be cleaned and the carpets to be cleaned before you move in. Would that make it a lot easier if you didn't have to worry about you show up at the walkthrough and the house is trash? You don't have to worry about it. We've either negotiated it in or I'm going to pay for it. A home warranty. Home warranty people won't talk to me. I'm going to guarantee you that I'm either negotiate a home warranty or I'm going to pay for a home warranty on your house. So if the 30-year-old furnace does happen to go out, which it will on the hottest day or the coldest day of the year, it will be taken care of by the home warranty people and you'll have to pay $75. I will guarantee that. I also am going to give a design consult. Now you just moved into your stuff, your house, and it's a great house and you love it, and guess what? Your old crap doesn't look good. But I don't know where to go to buy it. I have a designer that's going to come in, give you a 2-hour consult with the things that you have, and then if you want to hire them to do more stuff, you can at your expense, but I'm going to pay and give you a consult for that. And the last thing I'm going to do is, now we had this inspection done on the property, and you have this laundry list. It's 44 pages, and we got 6 things done that need to be done. We got the radon done, we got the sewer line fixed, we got those things. But you still have a whole bunch of things you need to get done in this house. I'm going to give you 5 hours of handyman services. My handyman's going to come in, you hand them the list, and they're going to make those repairs for you. Would that make your life easier? Yes, it would. So then I sit there and say, so here's what I do. I'm going to charge, we're going to do a buyer agency agreement, and in that buyer agency agreement, I'm going to get paid between 2.5 and 3%. Is that fair? If it's over 3%, I won't get any more, but if it's under 2.5, you're going to have to pay the difference in that. Is that fair? Now, here's what. I will do those things at 2.8% or above. Holy shit, I don't want to do those things. So now when I'm sitting there saying, by the way, they're only offering 2.5%. Is it okay if I ask for 2.8 so I can offer those other things? Now I'm selling $1 million house, 0.3% is how much? Come on, math. $3,000. That cost me probably about $1,000. But they're going to be on my side saying, I want you to make sure you get paid because I want to get these services, which most of the things are going to be paid by the seller anyhow because they're negotiating the contract. Fair? So now I got them on my side to go negotiate and say, hey, I'm going to do this. Now, when I get to the contract and I'm going through all this, and they're all wondering about how people get paid, I go and say, here's our $1 billion change in the contract. And it's that little highlighted part that has in 29.1 how I get paid. And I say the only difference is it's always been the same. There's been no changes in this. The only difference is it's not in the MLS. When I walk in the door, I don't know I'm getting 2.8 or 2.5 or 3%. I've got to go ask them, and I put it in the contract, and you're going to be here paid. Now, if they're only going to pay 2%, you potentially would have to pay me 0.5 as a minimum. And guess what? I just had a Shea last month. They were offering 2% of the base. I went back and said, that's just not going to work. My buyer doesn't want to pay because it was, I think, 1.5 million. They were offering 20,000 on 2% of the base on a million. I got Shea to kick in to 2.8% of the base price, so we were $8,500 difference. And guess what? My buyer at closing had an $8,500 difference to get to 2.5, and they were so grateful for me to take it from 2.8 to 2.5, and instead of getting $20,000, I made $37,000 in the same transaction. I think we're sitting here freaking out because we know what's going on. Our clients are like, just take care of me, and I understand you got to get paid. So take the worry. They understand we got to get paid. Get paid. So that's how I'm doing it.
Amen to that. You look like you got something else you want to add to this.
I have so much.
All right,
I'm just gonna let
fire
you
away.
guide.
Go ahead. Then we're gonna.
So
Yes.
one of the things that we've explained is that majority of the country did need some of this regulation. One of the things that we explain to people, at least here in Colorado, is that we've been pioneers in this whole industry, and so we're the ones that lead. So a lot of this stuff had already been implemented, and that's why we have less that we have to adapt to also. But some of the things, the two things that we've always heard is we either need preparation or we need reputation. And right now, because even though there are less in the industry, we are coming up a lot against a lot more competition, people that are a lot more proficient. And so for us, the 3 things that we are preaching are preparation, reputation, but also demonstration. And demonstration is confidence and competence. And if you don't have those things, it is through doing the work, it is through running through the practice. And one of the things that we've been doing to try to make sure that we get there is constant practice and creating an environment, I guess, where you would be able to be more vulnerable in that room, whether it's with 2, 3, 4. For us, it's with our team. We're very selective. But the reason why is because we want people to feel like they can mess up. I typically try to mess up first and then let it go around and get to a point where it's super refined. Guys, if you guys aren't doing this, it's going to be super important so that you can be present for the conversation. Because they really don't care at the end of the day. They care about getting their home. They care about all the things that you can be for them. And as long as you can demonstrate that and be there and be present in the conversation, a lot of this just doesn't matter. It just kind of...
Agreed. I got one last really quick question, and then we're going to open it up and get to lunch here in 10 minutes. So, last question is this. Now we got through the presentation, we got our buyer agency signed, we're ready to make an offer on a house. How are you figuring out how you're going to get paid? Are you calling the agent before you show it? Are you calling the agent before you write the offer? Are you just putting it in the offer? How are you doing that? You go ahead. You got the mic. Fire away.
I'm putting it in right away. So I'm prepping. Essentially, this is what I'm doing is I'm prepping my client first. We're strategizing. So we're going to put the offer together. We're then going to present it. It's going to have the compensation, whether it is a resale or whether it's a new build. As long as you have your agreement, for me, it's upfront, and I'm presenting it to them with all that information.
So you're not calling the agent. You're just putting it in the offer. And I'm assuming when you put it in the offer, you're putting it in the offer at 3%.
Absolutely.
I am reaching out to the agent to see if I can get a feel for where they're at. I mean, I think the good thing with what Alan shared earlier is, sellers are getting, the worm is turned here. And we are going to be able to sit there and say, hey, my buyer doesn't want to pay the 0.2%, and that is a real deal here. So, sellers going to get their house sold. Been on 168 days, 0.2% is $3,000. It starts becoming a rounding error, and you can sit there and say, it's kind of a sticking point for my buyer. You guys can decide, but they don't want to pay the 0.3% or the $3,000 or whatever it's going to be. So I think we're going to see a better chance of negotiating. Now, at the end of the day, this has been going on in commercial real estate forever, and commissions are getting negotiated all the time, and that we haven't seen that, how it's been set up. So just be prepared. That is going to become part of the deal, and you are going to see your commissions getting negotiated. I'm just sitting there saying, if I get paid 3% sometimes and 2.5 other times, and it averages out to be 2.75 or 2.8, I'm going to be kind of where I was before, and I'm okay with that. So that's kind of where I've been on that. The other thing I would bring up too is on those numbers over there that Alan brought up, that we're down in sales. There's 32,000 sales that happened, so let's say there'll be 40,000 sales this year instead of 50. There's two sides on that. There's 80,000 sales happening in Denver. I only need like 40 of them. So it really doesn't matter to me. If it was down to there was only 40 and we're all in this room, then I'm going to be worried. But I need all 40, and I'm going to try to fight you for every one of them. I only need 40 sides. So I'm being greedy. You might only need 20, you might need 60, but I need 40. The market's plenty abundant out there for us, even in this down market. So, but don't give up commissions. And I will tell you, the last piece of thing that goes away is my commission. So we're all throwing in money on this deal. Once the buyer throws in money, the seller throws in money, and the other agent throws in money, then my money goes in. I'm not the first one to donate into the pie. So.
More good advice.
I do want to add something really quickly. He said it right. It's not 100% of the time that we do it, but we practice it 100% of the time, but we don't get it all the time. I've heard people are saying, well, what if the transaction, what if my commission, if I don't do it, the transaction won't go through. That's on you and your ability on negotiation. Or, well, I'd much rather have 2% than nothing. Right, but that's back to mentality. So we do practice it 100% of the time, but we don't get it 100% of the time. So we do it still 80% of the time, in my opinion, majority of the time, I guess I should say. But don't beat yourself up if somebody comes in and say, yeah, this is all what I can get. That's a decision for you to make, how much you're worth. And if when you're working with this person, if they are negotiating your commission, every single one of you know that it's going to be a nightmare person to work with. And you have to decide if you will be working for that 2%.
One thing I promise is that if you didn't ever ask for it, 100% of the time you wouldn't get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And make sure you're doing hard shit. One of the things that I want to explain, as Lana hasn't talked about this, she just had a deal where she was super transparent with her clients. Her clients came back and tried to come at her for something that had nothing to do with her. She went to the agent, was transparent with both sides, and one of the things that came up in there was her commission and how she had fought for her commission. This is like worst case scenario. This is what we all dread, is that they actually pointed it out and made it a piece of why things were going the way they were. And the cool thing about it was, even though that piece was in there because she communicated, because she was transparent, and because she actually demonstrated the value, even afterwards, they went back and thanked her and appreciated her for her professionalism and the way she worked. Even though that was polarized and they were originally going after her, this agent tried to gang up on her and in turn basically just made her out to be the hero. So even in worst case scenario, guys, it's still been just fine. Yeah.
Good things happen when we do it the right way. Beautiful. All right. I got time for 2 questions. If you don't have any, we can go eat. Okay, Jen, hold on. Let me bring you the microphone real quick.
I was just wondering, do you take out your transaction fee and not make them pay that, and then that's part of the 3%?
Correct, yes. That's what Brandon was saying, the like even numbers versus like smaller ones. So 3%, this is it.
That's still big numbers. That's big difference in money. Where? Okay, coming Wyatt. Yeah, a lot.
Good job.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mike.
I want to give Lana and Brandon a huge thank you. They presented at the Greenwood Village office, and we found it very motivating in our meeting with them talking through their process. And so we're, a month and a half into the new experience, and I have already tried this out with I'm not having a problem having my buyers sign my buyer agency at my agreed commission rate. That's not the problem that I'm running up against. But just to test what's going on, you guys actually talked about it at one of our recent company meetings where someone was saying, none of the buyer agents are asking me what the seller is offering. As a buyer agent, I've written a lot of contracts recently. I've been calling all of the listing agents ahead of time, and very few of them are offering what my buyer agency says. I'm just exploring this, and so this is before I show the home. I've just started calling and texting and having these conversations, and when the agent says, actually, my listing agreement with the seller is this lower amount, I'm telling them up front, well, my buyer has a buyer agency with me at X, and have you had the conversation with your seller about receiving an offer at that amount? Because that's what my client would write if we bring you an offer, which I know you'd love to have. I'm getting a lot of pushback from the listing agents. And I wanted to hear from you guys how to handle that. And maybe the way to handle it is, that won't work for my buyer, period, because the most common objection from the listing agents up front, and again, some of them are getting offers from my clients and some aren't, is my seller has a listing agreement at this lower number, and they're not going to pay you what you're asking. Your buyer has to pay it. How are you navigating that?
Before I answer, I want Amber to put that one of the slides with 8,700 in commission in there, but Brandon was able to kind of handle it with the new build.
That's why I don't call them at a time. I'm trying to take the wind out of their sails. I'm trying to eliminate all that. And honestly, the contract is the form that enables us to talk to the seller directly without the noise from the listing agent. So for us, we're just kind of spearheading it that way.
The other thing is that listing agreement too says this is the list price, right? I'm not coming in at the list price. And I'm asking for the hot tub, and I don't want the stupid swing set that is 85 years old, it's falling apart in the back. I want that excluded. So because what's in the listing agreement isn't what's going to end up in the contract. And so I agree. I'm not asking, I mean, I might ask if there's a co-op, but that doesn't hesitate me to come in and say, I know that this is going to be part of the negotiations and it's going to come up. I will just tell you, this is going to be part of every negotiation most of the time, and if you don't script yourself on it, you're going to fail. And so it's just practicing it and scripting it. And I also will tell you, is like, I don't take the counteroffer and then send that over to my client. I discuss the counteroffer with them and just say, here's what's going on, until we get to the final thing. As a general, it's how I handle it, because it just is noise to them. So I can sit there and say, here's the things they came back with. They came back on commissions here. They came back on this here, on price. So I think we should come back where they're asking $1 million. We came in at 950. I think we should come back at 975. And we asked for 3% on commission. They came back at 2.5. I think we should go to 2.8. Are you good with all those things? Yep, I'm good with all those things. And yeah, take that stupid rackety play set in the back out of here. We still don't want that. And then just kind of come back. And then when we have everything buttoned up, I either bring a new offer in or I bring a new counter back and we put it all in there. But I'm not going to go show them this and go through all these. It's easier to have a conversation than have them see it in writing and go from there.
Good. I was going to say, just so you guys understand, I deal with like the 10% of the freakiest people in the world, I feel like. And, yeah, I don't know, like that 10% of, and they're all the ones that say, on the listing side, they're the ones that say, I refuse to pay a listing agent or a buyer agent and all that other stuff. And then I talk to them about how we market and the negotiation process, and we've been able to work it out every single time where the buyer agent was happy, the seller was happy, the buyer was happy, and we didn't compromise anyone. So,
Also, do you talk to the buyers and are you trying to get the entire 3% from the listing agent? Is that what you're trying to do there?
So I've already had my buyers pay part of my fee, and I've had other buyers who are now talking about paying part of my fee. What I'm trying to do is not have my clients do that. I want the seller to pay it. And my argument when I'm strategizing with my client is, let's counter, like I did write my commission in, seller pays, into the first few contracts, and they all countered my commission. So I'm just exploring how to handle this. So that's when I started asking in advance, and then trying to prep the listing agent. Well, you know what? My client would love to buy your client's home. This will be the commission instead. I want to bring you an offer. Can we make this work for both parties? I'm just asking for ideas.
So another idea, if you're not, so the listing agent that I called that said it's 2.8 and then came back and will pay me 2.5 afterwards, like I said, when we start negotiating, I came back to my client and said there's 2 ways we can go about it. We can accept it if that's what you like. Well, 3 ways. You can accept it if that's what you like. There is the difference of 0.5%. You can come up with that yourself. Or we do have the room, appraisal will not be an issue, to put it back on the seller, but the price will go up in the commission wise. Can you do that? You potentially can, but explain to them that each $1,000 for the listing price is going to add $5 to $7 to their monthly payments. Are they willing to pay, I don't know if it's $5,000 more, $3,000 more, are they willing to pay that $15 a month? I don't want them to finance it, I really don't, but if that's their choice. So that's an option.
It's a mindset shift, guys. The seller's not paying. The seller paid when it was like with foreclosures and stuff. The buyer's the one paying, whether it's through the transaction or whether it's through their pocket. So all we're doing is asking them to pay out of the transaction versus out of the buyer's pocket. We're not asking the seller to pay.
Good. Very good point. All right. We're going to wrap it up. Give these guys a round of applause, please. Thank you, guys. Great job. If you didn't learn anything this morning, if you took the spreadsheet, the 55 reasons and the 8 pillars, you got your money's worth for coming up already.
Thanks for sharing, you guys. That was really good.
Yeah, great stuff.